Fantastic. That was a great discussion. I could have talked to Marcus for a long period of time, but it was really, really interesting to hear his insider perspective. But let's move on to our first panel for the day. I'd like to welcome our great panellists to the stage, but let me just quickly set the scene. In the first panel, we're going to start talking about regulation. What are the regulatory sort of foundations that we need for the digital economy? And as our speakers come to the stage, I'll briefly introduce. First, we have Christy Talving, Deputy Secretary-General for Business and Consumer Environment, Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications of Estonia. Welcome, Christy. And next, I'd like to introduce Sheikh Abdullah bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, Chairman at Patelco. Please join me in welcoming Christy and Abdullah to the stage. Have a seat. Fantastic. Good morning. Great to see you both. Okay, so this is, as I've said, a wonderful event, and there's many things to talk about today, but in this session, we want to talk about building blocks, regulatory building blocks, and where we are. Christy, can I start with you? We had a great discussion behind the scenes as we prepared for this session, but I just want to start with the need. What was the need? I keep hearing about what you've done in Estonia over quite a few years, actually. But what was the need that drove you and your colleagues in Estonia to digitise, to move along this path? I just want to understand, where did this all start? What was the need that drove you to start this transition?
Yes, we like to say that our need was pain. It was due to pain because of lack of resources and lack of manpower. If you know, Estonia is a relatively big country, territorial-wise. We are bigger than Belgium, bigger than Netherlands, bigger than Denmark. But citizen-wise, it's really small. We have only 1.3 million people. So coming to independence in 1991, it was too difficult, too expensive, too few people to offer bureaucracy all over Estonia to create the offices. So the government saw digitalization as a way out. And already a few years after the independence, the government set the first digital strategy. And it all started in 1996 by skilling the people, giving the universities and schools first computers,
right.
Creating the possibility to access internet, all together with private companies. So the financial sector, commercial banks are the first one who came abroad because they had the same pain. It was too expensive to create offices all over Estonia, and they needed people to get to use with digital services. And the second is really to be government as an example. The first thing we did already in 1998 was that we created e-government. All the ministerial meetings, preparation went online. So it shrank the government meetings time from 5 hours to 10 minutes, because they can do all the consultation, remarks, everything online before the government meetings. And then the first real e-service came alive in the year 98. It was declaring taxes online. Just to say, now 98% of Estonian citizens do it every year. It takes only 3 minutes. But this was the trigger, because people realized that e-services ease their pain, give them more time to deal with families or work stuff, and they wanted more. So how to get more? What we did the next was we gave EID for every citizen. And EID number, it's public, so that private sector can also create services on it. So that's why already in 2000 we had mobile parking, we had e-voting, we had e-prescription. You call your doctor and then you go to the medicine center, just take your pills out, and all other e-services, so that now 98% of our services are online. You have to show up only for getting married or divorced.
Interesting. Fascinating to hear that it started with pain. Very, very, and quite a few years ago. Really, we'll definitely come back with some more examples, Christy, shortly. Abdullah, you have a different perspective, but I'd love to hear what was the need, what was the sort of driving force in your experience in terms of getting on a digital path?
Well, for us was not pain, it's actually reward, right? So, digitalizing your business means that, you get digital revenue. It means that the market treats you as a technology company.
So it's more about opportunity
Absolutely,
as well.
Absolutely, and as well as market expectations and customer evolution.
Yeah.
So we're now in generation, I don't know what, Z, and everybody expects to do everything through an app. So if we didn't, bring our business to the customer's requirement, then we'll be irrelevant.
Right.
And I guess for us as well, the obvious one was also COVID, right?
Right.
And the pull effect of COVID, and we're the custodian of the connection of the kingdom, and we've seen how COVID digitalized everything from government to the private sector, and we've seen a great pressure on the network, and we had to digitalize to survive. So it was a little bit of pain, but also
opportunity and survival. Absolutely. Christy, can I come back to you? Some more examples, some case studies that you would highlight with the audience in person and online that show some really nice examples of digitalising from your perspective in Estonia.
Yeah. Maybe the first thing that actually gave the trigger was the EID and e-signature. Imagine now you don't have any paper to sign anymore. You just, in Estonia, we sign everything digitally. It saves us 2% GDP every year, and the paper was in the height of Eiffel Tower. So imagine your ministers or your bosses or yourself sitting in the back seat of the car and signing all the documents or making transactions. You can even buy your house in the back seat of the car because of verification processes. Next thing, maybe it's we were the first who created our governmental data embassies. We have Estonian government data embassy in Luxembourg, which means that we store Estonian critical data in Luxembourg servers. It's Estonian territory, and it's protected by Estonian cybersecurity and blockchain technology. And there's also critical e-services we can provide. It depends what happens, but Estonian e-government and Estonian e-services will still stay if something bad happens. Maybe AI is the new thing now. We have more than 100 AI governmental services.
So it's more than a buzzword, is it, Christy? Yeah. AI? We all talk about it, but you've actually been using it, made good use of it?
Yes, we're using AI in every day. We are just doing it this way that actually we don't even know anymore it's the AI we're using. We are using it to type up government meetings and different court meetings. We are using it to apply benefits, to putting together job seekers and jobs. And now the next new thing we are doing also together with AI is proactive services. We have everything digitalized, but now we want to recreate the services in a user point of view.
Maybe it was more either the opportunity or the survival point that you made, but some interesting examples you'd share.
I guess for us, we've tackled this issue differently. So for us, the foundation was very important. So, 5G. So we started the 5G experiment in late 2019 with 15% of the country covered with 5G. Fast forward to August 2020, we covered almost 80% of the kingdom. Today, we cover 100% of the kingdom with 5G. As well as we made a conscious decision to connect every home and every business to fiber. So today, we cover 100% of companies fiber network, almost 85% of homes through fiber. Then we said, let's find the applications to take advantage of the connectivity. So within 5G, we've seen connected ambulances. So we worked with our Ministry of Health to connect ambulances to the hospitals. We've worked with our traffic bureau for smart junctions and how to avoid traffic jams. We're working with the government to digitalize their services. So it's a problem where, you know, we built a very solid foundation, and now we're working with partners to find applications to take advantage of that connectivity.
Right, but it does sound like, as you just said, that there's a foundation, and once you have the foundation, then you can do other things on top, and then working with other partners. But for you and yourselves, it was getting everyone connected to 5G, and that was the necessary foundation before you can then do things over and above that.
Absolutely, and you know, foundation is important, but also other skill sets, like, for example, people. So you need to spend a lot of time on education,
absolutely,
skill set, but also as, you know, an ecosystem, you know, be opened up for disruption. So, you know, Bahrain is now looking at the private sector to disrupt its, you know, e-services, as well as, you know, the ecosystem and the startup community.
Both.
Yeah. So yeah.
Maybe switch that.
Thank you.
And yeah, so, you know, it's foundation, people, but also the community as well. So you need to have a, you know, a startup ecosystem, incentivize innovation. So it all goes hand in hand as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to talk a lot about partnerships today and collaboration. It's not just a buzzword, thankfully. And just to say to everyone, if I manage our time correctly, we'll get some Q&A in. So we'll have roving mics a little bit later in our discussions, but also you can, you know, send them via digitally, of course, and I'll ask the questions to our great speakers. Thank you, Abdullah. Christy, coming back to you, policies. Now, we've talked about pain drove yourselves. Abdullah spoke about opportunity, but also a bit of survival. We've got some case studies. But what about what policies do we need to have in place, do governments need to have in place to allow all these great benefits to be found?
I totally agree with you. The basic infrastructure needs to be there. It's the main foundation to have the connectivity. This is the soft side of the policy that needs to be there before you can provide these services. But the other side of the policy is building trust. It's extremely important that the rules and regulations are there to build the trust in digital services. But also the upside, the rules and regulations need to uphold. So you need to know if there's a breach of rule, there is a punishment. For example, in Estonia, health data, we created a public log for the data owner. So you, as your own health data owner, see who accessed your health data. If the doctor is right, or is just somebody from the hospital looking up your health data. Then you have the possibility to complain. If it's not the person who should have, then you have the possibility to complain. So transparency of data is extremely important, transparency of use of data. And transparency itself, because incident will happen. It also happens in Estonia, but what we do, we talk publicly what happened and how we make it better, so to keep the transparency. And the second part is security. Without good cyber security, there's no e-services. And as the COVID brought out, there's also awareness and skilling users about cyber hygiene. It's extremely important at the moment.
So just picking up that point, it's so fascinating that we need, particularly from a government perspective, we need security, cyber security, to enable all these great things to happen. Because I guess as a consumer or a citizen, I need to be able to trust the government, wherever I'm living, that my personal data, my health data, some things that are very personal, I wouldn't want them being stolen, wouldn't want them being shared around the world, etc., etc. So it's very interesting that cybersecurity really goes hand in hand with some of the other aspects that you've really mentioned there.
Yes, this is something we invest a lot at the moment in cybersecurity. And we maintain to be open and transparent.
What, when you make mistakes or when breaches happen?
When breaches happen, Yes, we have had several breaches, and we always, the IT officials come out to the public and say, okay, we had this kind of incident. Estonians already know that every other year some incident will happen, but they always say how we protect ourselves, how you should protect your data, what we do with your data, and we also, as we all have so-called state email address. Every citizen is born, citizen gets state email address. So it's christy.talving at estonia.ee.
Gets a state email address.
Yes, gets email address and gets his EID.
Right.
When the baby is born, everybody gets it. And we also send personal email to this state email address that with your data this incident happened, but we did this thing and that thing, and next time please be aware and protect your data this way. So extreme transparency.
Which sounds great, Christy, because it's trust.
Yes, it's
you, particularly from a government, need to maintain the trust of your citizens. So being transparent sounds wonderful. Maybe if there are too many mistakes or too many breaches, is there a balance? Are you fully transparent with every mistake or breach that you see? I mean, is there a balance? You don't want to lose that trust of your citizens.
Yeah, because we have really many cyber attacks. I think every country has nowadays.
Right.
And more digitalized you are, the more cyber attacks you have. Trying to hack in to see if they manage. And that's why we're investing really a lot in cybersecurity and also teaching cyber hygiene to the citizens, just to minimize the attacks.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much, Christy. Abdullah, coming back to you. We mentioned COVID before, and obviously we're still very aware of where we're sitting with COVID. And it was also part of survival, you said, but just thinking about COVID, how did it accelerate everything? I mean, did this, some people tell me in Economist Impact, in a way COVID-19 accelerated our digital transformation by 5 or 10 years, just because, like you said, there was survival. Companies, governments just had to accelerate. Is that how you view COVID's impact on digitalisation as well?
John, we went from the most boring company to the most important company in a day, right? So, you know, the boring utility like revenue of voice and data became the most important asset in COVID. In about 2 weeks, we've seen applications jump almost 1,000%. Teams, Zoom, and we had to be smart and we had to be reactive. And what we did is actually we increased our international capacity by 50%, but we did also a very smart thing, which is store content locally. So we've implemented AI to look at the Netflix of the world, the Googles of the world, the YouTubes of the world, and see what was the most content that was used and store it locally to improve customer experience, latency, and of course make the user happy in terms of their connection. And if Squid Games becomes the #1 downloaded Netflix TV show, AI automatically stores it within our network, and these are the things that we had to do very quickly to not disrupt the day-to-day businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Christy, would you agree with that view that COVID-19 sort of accelerated? I mean, it sounds like Estonia's been doing this since the late 1990s anyway, or were you guys already on the path? Did COVID-19 accelerate your efforts in any way?
Yeah, it's e-service guys were ready. In schools, the home learning and home teaching, it was perfectly well. There's no major changes. But on business-wise, I think the home delivery and e-shopping, Yeah, it raised a lot. And what's maybe a citizen noticed, the main difference is that we have now delivery robots on the streets. There's not enough manpower to deliver the goods home. Now we have robots on the streets delivering the goods.
Robots on the streets?
Yes.
Similar to the robots walking around Expo?
Yes, similar to robots walking around.
What are they delivering?
They're delivering goods. If you want to buy milk or something from a grocery store.
A robot can bring me my milk?
Yes, a robot can bring the milk home. So they're really cute. The thing is, they're so cute that nobody is afraid of them. They're just this small, white, without eyes.
Is anyone going to steal my milk?
No.
No?
Because you order it from your phone, then you get your security code, and the robot arrives home, and then you open it up with the security code. And actually, they're so cute that we have snow and everything, this kind of bad weather in Estonia. And if the robots falls over sometimes because of the load of the snow, then people can stop their cars and put them back on the streets.
It's a very polite society in Estonia. Jeez, wow. I'm not sure Australians would do that, or the British.
Yeah. And the other thing is that our startup ecosystem grew a lot because we are actually #1 country in the world counting unicorns per capita. We have 1.3 million people and 7 unicorns. You maybe have heard Skype, TransferWise, Verif, and Bolt. They all come from Estonia. And it created really big, like snowball effect. And now we have 7 startups, 7 unicorns and more than 1,000 startup companies. They give 10% of our GDP each year. But after 10 years, we hope to have 25 unicorns and more than 30% of our GDP.
Absolutely. Now, before we take some questions, I just have one more question to both of you. Maybe I'll start with Christy and then come to Abdullah. But Christy, the collaboration or cooperation between public and private, what is most important there to get that relationship right?
Between public and private, I think the key for the government is always to go hand in hand with companies. Only together with the government it's not possible to do, but the government needs to lead the way. And just a few examples what we do is, for example, when you are providing services or goods to the government, the only way you can bill is e-invoice. So government started to use e-invoicing. Now private companies between businesses use also e-invoices. We need to create this space or the rules where we taxonomize the data so that the same data can be used also by businesses. We have open data policy. We have more than 800 set of data openly used for businesses. So just to give the businesses opportunity to start new businesses. I think in this kind of hand in hand.
So you have to work closely, I imagine, maintain good communications, have a reasonable relationship with the private sector.
Yes, we're working really closely with companies every day.
Abdullah, same question, but from your perspective.
Yeah.
What really helps this private-public partnership?
For me, it's a shared vision, right? So, each country should have a digital strategy in terms of what do they want to do. And if you have, the vision, mission clear, then implementation becomes much easier. So if you have aligned interest on that, then it's easy to implement that strategy, incentivize companies and private sector to adopt, digital ways. And we've seen the reward of that. So, digital economies right now were the most resilient economies when COVID hit. And we've seen the recovery as well. They recovered so much quicker. So it starts from a vision and a strategy, and then I guess implementation becomes much easier.
But just to ask you on that point, the vision from the public sector, or basically a vision that is aligned with the private sector? So basically both public and private have the same vision?
Yes.
Not quite. Microphone.
Yeah, it starts with, the government's vision in terms of, their GDP aspiration, how much they want to grow GDP, and how much, digital can contribute as well. But also it goes to the company itself in terms of, for example, I'll take, Batilka as an example, We had a target of almost 15% of our revenue to be digital revenue. Started with 1% in 2017. Now it's 5% in 2021, and our long-term plan is to be 50%. It's a very ambitious target, and I guess tone at the top has to be important, but also within each company, they should have their own aspirations as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's fascinating to me to hear both your respective stories. I mean, without naming names, I can probably guess that there'll be countries out there that maybe don't have this aligned vision between public and private, but obviously there are countries that are, and these countries are making great progress.
We are also doing important changes for me also is that every thing that we order in the public money, the code is open to use also for private companies. So, for example, the AI solutions that we have, the code is openly used. So, and the second thing is government decided that we would each year 1% of the GDP in R&D activities. And this is something also that accelerated the process. It's second year now in a row with 1% of GDP in R&D activities. And actually, private companies reacted in the way that now there's like hundreds of companies who put 2% of their annual budget into R&D activities. So it all goes hand in hand.
Right, absolutely. And please share your questions. Definitely come to the audience soon, but we already have one question I just want to throw at you both now. Maybe I'll start with Abdul and then come back to Christy. But the question is, what is the biggest challenge you think we will face in the next 10 years? I guess obviously in the digital realm, but what is the biggest challenge, Abdul, you think we'll face?
I guess for me it's the speed of disruption, to be honest. So today I think, we can talk about, let's say, the health sector. Health sector hasn't been disrupted. You still go to the hospital, get a diagnosis, and then you write to a prescription and you go to a pharmacy. In 10 years, you'll take a test at home, know what you have, and will only go to a hospital for surgery. The same thing at, work, right? So, the traditional drive to work and have an office, I think that's disappearing as we speak. So your car, your home, a shared space, that's your digital office. So, and that's the path we're taking. It's just, governments needs to understand this, private sector needs to understand this, and this is, how I expect, the next 10 years is going to be.
It's a fascinating point, Mark. I spoke to Marcus earlier and I really made a similar point that the digital transformation has been amazing already. The things we're doing, we're all talking to each other on Zoom and Hangouts and all these services, which has allowed us to get through the crisis, and you've all accelerated digitally and so on. And maybe I'm wrong, but I still think there's a lot more disruption to come. Again, this is amazing what we're doing, where we are right now, but the next 5 or 10 years, it's going to be pretty significant again, which I find really, really, really fascinating. Slightly daunting, slightly exciting, but fascinating. Christy, the same question to you. What do you think will be the biggest challenge in the next 10 years that we'll face in this digitalisation trend?
I think the biggest challenge is already here. It's talented, skilled IT workforce. This is something we are struggling already at the moment, and it's not the Estonian problem, it's a worldwide problem, because we all try to get talents from each other. And this is where we need to find solutions, because everything is going digital, and it takes much more workforce. And thinking of 10 years' time, I think what we wish and we aim is to have like invisible government service-wise. We try to have this e-services cross-border. We have very good cooperation with Finland, sharing data. You can go to the Estonian doctor and call the Estonian doctor and she writes a prescription online and you can go to Finnish pharmacy and buy out your medicine. We want to have these kind of services cross-border, all the European Union, because it's a shame that the EU, at the moment, we have only one EU-wide e-service, and it's the COVID certificate, nothing else. So we have huge market potential, but we still have fragmented European Union market. And of course, I think this spillover of the unicorn effect taking place in Estonia, it's also 10 years' time. You know, we have much more unicorns, much more tech companies, much more startup companies.
Can I just ask you, Christy, we're going to talk about this in other sessions today, but just on the human capital side, I don't want to preempt the next couple of panels that we have coming up, but I found your story fascinating about the robots for lots of reasons, but you said essentially that there was a bit of a shortage which drove maybe the implementation of rolling out the robots. But you also just mentioned it there, just the human capital side, the training side, how challenging, important is that? Everything you've said about Estonia sounds great, you've been doing this for over 20 years, but also bringing people along.
Yes, it's the challenge, but we start already in kindergarten.
Right.
Okay, of course COVID helped a lot because every child is
Everyone was
on
online.
PlayStation and YouTube and everywhere.
Yep.
But we start already in kindergarten, teaching the computer, teaching different services, and it's obligatory in schools to teach IT. And that's how we just teach the next generation. Today's generation, everybody's asking, you have elderly people, how they manage. But you cannot focus only to that, how you cannot manage things. When the majority of the society manage, then there's always someone to help. We all have grandmothers, grandfathers, we all can help them, and they are not so, how to say, not stupid, but they are not actually afraid. When they see first time how it's done, because in Estonia they also e-vote. We have these basic services online. They need to declare taxes, they need to e-vote, they really like the prescription, that they can call doctor and go to pharmacy. So these are the basic things that they are used to and they are willing to learn more.
Absolutely, absolutely fantastic. Christy, Abdullah, we've run out of time. Like with Marcus, and this is going to happen, time are going to hear me talk about all day. I could listen to you both talk for hours. We've run out of time, but please join me in thanking Christy and Abdullah for sharing their insights today. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you very much.